Hi, this is Dina for Splitcoaststampers. In this video, I will share my technique for using misted water with watercoloring for an atmospheric background effect. I'm starting with this stamped image on watercolor paper, and I'm using a waterproof ink. I use VersaFine Clear here, but you could use a hybrid or solvent ink as well. I'm going to mist this stamped image, and that's going to make the paper bow upward. So to counter that, I'm going to mist the back side of the paper first. You could also tape down your paper around the edges, but I like this trick because it kind of makes the paper stick down in place as well as correcting the curve. I'm going to mist water over the stamped image and then tap and brush in watercolor paint in each general area. And I'm using a large brush on purpose here because I'm not concerned about detail. This is a number 12 round brush. I just want to get color on the image and onto the panel. So the misted water has its own pattern, and it will pull the paint into that pattern organically. If you find your paint or ink isn't pulling out, you can mist the panel again lightly to get it to move. You can also try splattering the paint a little to get it into the outlying mist pattern. Once I've got all my colors down, I'm going to let the panel air dry naturally before moving on. I don't want to disturb any of that misted pattern by using a heat tool. When the base color is dry, I'm going to use a smaller brush to go back in and add shading and details. This is a number 6 round. And for these florals, I want my shading to be toward the center of each flower because I know that area is deeper in a real flower. My brush is wet and I'm picking up the paint at the tip of the brush so that the water will create a natural fade of the color for me. And this is a technique that takes a little practice. And if you don't get it right at first, you can go back in with a little more water to blend the color out while it's still damp. You can also dot in more concentrated paint where you need it while the paper is still damp there too. If you have a good quality paper that keeps the water on the surface, you have some time to play and get it the way that you want it. Also, if you add too much color or too much paint, you can lift it out with a corner of a paper towel. And again, this is a process that takes a little practice, and your results will vary a little depending on the paints and the paper that you use, the amount of water that you use, the size and type of brush that you use, the temperature of your water or the temperature of your room. So that is why practice is important, as well as getting to know your supplies and how they react and work together. So I'm going to finish up here and let this layer of color dry before I move on to the next layer. I'm going back in with the same colors here on this layer, but a little more concentrated color. And my brush is a little bit drier so I can add more detail in this step. I'm working the color toward the centers of the flowers again and the centers of the leaves and adding in some shadows where images overlap. If you need some help with shading or shadow placement, we have a tutorial on the Splitcoaststampers site called Pencil Shading, and that tutorial obviously uses colored pencil, but the theories there apply for other mediums as well. And I will link that tutorial below the video for you. You can repeat this step with as many layers and colors as you need to create the depth and detail that you want in your image. I'm going to stop with this layer and add my details with some other mediums in the next step. I like to add finer shadows with colored pencil. That sharp point allows me to get right up to the edges of images and sections and add finer lines. So here I'm just working in the same areas where I added shadows before, but with finer details and smaller strokes. For the flower centers, I've got some white craft paint. Sometimes I use white gesso for this too. I just need a little drop, and then I'll use a small ball stylus to create some little dots in each flower center. You can use the tip of a pencil for this if you don't have a stylus or another tool. And that is it. Here's my completed card. I love this technique with florals. So here are some other samples that I've done, and you can find all of these and stamp details in the Misted Watercolor Gallery over on the Splitcoaststampers site. I hope you'll give this technique a try, and I thank you so much for watching.